Best value procurement is procuring the best value for the lowest price, where value is determined by the client.
Okay. And what is value?
Value is that the client receives the closest thing to what they want for the lowest possible price.
Okay, I don't hear the word risk management.
Risk management is a part of value because when we run best value procurement, what we do is we understand that the client is not the expert, that the vendor is the expert. Therefore, when you run best value procurement, the client in the beginning really doesn't know what they want. So what they're doing by using best value procurement is identifying the best possible option or alternative for the lowest possible price to meet their requirements. So then what it forces the vendors to do, it forces the vendors to look at what they think the client wants and provide the best possible value that they can offer. In doing this, there is a transfer of risk and accountability from the client to the vendor. If the vendor now has complete control over the project, in the assumption of the best value is that the vendor is an expert. Therefore, in selecting the best value for the lowest price, the client now is actually finding out what the best value is during the procurement process, which is quite unusual for people in procurement. Now what happens is, once the risk is transferred to the vendor now must not only manage, quote, what he considers technical risk, which he shouldn't have any because he's an expert, but they're now managing and controlling the risk that they do not control, which is the risk that is brought really by the client and all expectations of the client. So in essence now, in best value procurement, we buy the services of an expert. Then what the expert must now do, because they have very little technical risk, they must now manage and control the risk that they don't control. And this is where we find out all the problems usually occur in the procurement of services.
Okay. And in your opinion, we're talking about a paradigm shift. What's the paradigm shift?
Well, there are a couple paradigm shifts. The first thing is, as we run the procurement process, we now assume that the client really doesn't know what they want. Therefore, the client now is going to find the best value by running the procurement process. Therefore, what they're going to receive is really dictated by the vendor. So now the paradigm shift is, where before the client wrote a contract telling the vendor what they wanted, in actuality now the vendor is actually writing the contract to tell the client what they're going to receive. And now instead of only, quote, managing what they're responsible for, which normally is just the technical requirements, they're now forced to manage and minimize the risk that they don't control, thereby taking total accountability of the project and the service they're providing.
Okay, thank you very much. Is all procurement that takes place now bad procurement?
No, I don't think so. Because the way we look at it is, everything that happens in time happens for a reason. And the reasons are always good. So as we change paradigms, what we should be trying to do is trying to change from one state or level of efficiency and value to a higher level. Now, one of the biggest drivers of this is government has always talked efficiency. Efficiency's been a big thing, and accountability. But until lately, it was merely talking and not doing. Because if you truly become efficient, what you're actually doing is doing the same amount of work with less people, the meaning of efficiency. Therefore, in this paradigm shift now, what's going on is the government now actually has to find a way to be more efficient, to deliver on time and minimize the cost. The paradigm shift here is, because we're switching the procurement model, shifting the expertise from the client to the vendor. The paradigm shift now is that we're not minimizing cost by cutting cost. We're minimizing the cost by having the most efficient contractor who knows exactly what to do, who can see it from beginning to end, and they can manage and minimize the risk that they don't control. So it's not bad what we're doing, but we just have a need now because we have rising requirements and minimized funding. We have a need to become efficient.
Okay.
And so it's just a way of life. It's part of the evolution of procurement.
Okay. Is best value procurement more than just a method to find the best supplier?
It's an actual paradigm shift because we call it best value procurement. There's a selection, or in the Dutch system, the award process. But what happens after the award, that the risk and control is actually transferred to the vendor. And the vendor has to now manage it from beginning to end. They have to be the expert. Instead of being reactive to the client, they now have to be proactive. This is a tremendous paradigm shift.
Okay, my last question. Where do you start when you try to realize best value procurement? What's the best way to start?
So how do we make the change from the traditional procurement going to a more optimal best value procurement? Well, I know a lot of people don't like to hear this, but the change has to be slow. The paradigm has to be understood. The key now is education. And what we found out from the running of the first few best value PIPS procurement projects in the Netherlands, that the problem hasn't been technical. The problem has been in the change of paradigm. For the client to realize they shouldn't be directing an expert. They should transfer the risk and accountability to the expert. Therefore, the paradigm shift has been difficult. So the change has to be slow. We have to run prototype tests. And we have to educate both the vendors and the client side. Both really need the education.
Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Well, thank you.